All right, ladies and gentlemen. So now we're through the whole issue of the Persian Wars. You know that Athens and Sparta and their alliance come up to win. Now the question is, what do you do next, and how do things happen after these whole events of the Persian Wars? And what the Greeks do after the Persian Wars is make sure that when the wall of Persia comes back, we can fight back. Obviously, this is like a huge slap in the face for the Persians. You know, they came back twice, got beat twice. The fear here is that they may fight again. And so one big issue they wanted to do here was make an alliance. They call it the Delian League, is what it was called. It was Athens and their allies. They're the orange ones here. The Delian League, Athens and their allies put together. They pooled all their money together. They put it on a little island called Delos. Delos is right here or right over here. Now all that money together and make sure you keep track of it and make sure we can use it they could use it then to defend against Persia. Now the scary part here is that Athens gets all this money from all their allies. Now Sparta decides not to join this alliance and make their own allies. You see the green here are Sparta and their allies. Okay, they're called the Peloponnesian League, kind of the anti of the Athenians. We're going to see what happens in this whole thing in a second here. Now, one of the big things we have is a guy named Pericles. Pericles was a soldier who kind of becomes this big leader in Athens, and he is written down as being a great leader. Kind of leads Athens to this great golden age in all of history. Through his leadership and through how he wants to try and fight, between all these other places. He was a leading general, and he led politics about 30 years. We're talking. And basically, he treated, he kind of changed the treatment a little bit. He treats other city-states like subjects. So all the people in the Delian League, he kind of demanded money payments from them. He said, "You guys gotta pay us money, or else," kind of things. What it came down to, if you pay us money or else. And so he had to demand these loyalties, payments from basically kind of act like Persians did before that a little bit. But it's kind of one of the things Pericles did. But because this is going on, Athens gets really, really rich. He also made it a lot more democratic, is the idea here. Okay, he believed people's talents were more important. So instead of he based more on what people could do versus what their name was or what their tribe they belonged to or what their parents had done before. So he actually allowed a lot of the lower class male citizens to run for public office and become in public office. And so instead of just the rich before, now he made it both the rich and the poor. He also made it so that when you work in government, you got paid. Before this, working in government was a free thing. So not a lot of people were willing to do it because they're thinking, hey, I could do my job and make money, or I could go in government and make no money. So he decided to pay the office holders. That's a big part of it. The biggest change here is that the poor people could become part of running the government as well. The regular people, they got more involved. And this was a big change in Athens. And he was a great orator, a great speaker. And one of the funny things is when people started speaking against him, he was able to convince other people to get them ostracized. There's a little piece of clay pottery here, the name on it that Pericles had ostracized the city. And he used that to his advantage to make sure that people who were talking against him weren't there anymore. There are tons of things here in the Greek Golden Age. We're going to talk about this in class more on Thursday and Friday, but you have first off, you have theater. It's a big part of it. You have tragedies that are written in trilogy, written in 3 parts, and performed in the great theaters, the great amphitheaters here of Greece. They're all used with all male actors. There are comedies, there are dramas. Most of the tragedies or some kind of tragic hero. We'll talk about the idea of theater and a tragedy in class more on Thursday and Friday. We also have our great thinkers like Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Pythagoras. These great Greek thinkers come around. We'll talk about those more as well on Friday in class. Last, we also have the idea of architecture develops here. The idea of what's called a Doric column. These columns here that are built this is the Parthenon, excuse me. The Parthenon in Rome, in Athens. I'm yawning here. I apologize for that. The Parthenon here in Athens. You can see the idea of the Doric column. We'll talk about those in class here as well. One of the problems we have is that there was some corruption going on here in this Delian League. The treasury was moved from Delos to Athens. And of course, that money started getting used for stuff that maybe it should have been used for. It was used for rebuilding Athens after it had been burned to the ground by the Persians. And so you start seeing all these big things being built, the temples, the new walls, all that kind of stuff with money from the Delian League. Eventually, we have, we have a big war breaks out within Greece itself. Sparta had been weakened by a huge earthquake. So those helots, the slaves that they had, revolted in Sparta as well. And as Athens gained more and more power, people started freaking out with that Athens was going to become like this new Sparta, this new Persia, that was going to try and take over the entire place. And so in the end, we start seeing two big alliances break out. You have the Delian League, Athens and their allies, versus Sparta and their allies, which were the Peloponnesian League. Again, this is a 25-year-long war, what this was. And it lasted just, it was a huge war that was going to basically bring Greece down. We're reading this speech about Pericles in class a little bit. We'll talk about it. But it's going to be, he makes a lot of big speeches during the first few years of the Peloponnesian War, and it's one really famous one we'll talk about in class here. So you kind of see who's who here in terms of the battle. And so you look at the two sides here. Athens had a really good navy. Sparta had a really good army. At first, Athens got really smart. They hid behind their city walls. They had their big walls, and the Spartan army couldn't get in. They used their navy then to kind of shut down all the trade going into Sparta. Really, really smart, actually, think about it. Problem is that when you're hidden behind the city walls, disease can creep up, and disease actually killed more than 1/3 of the people in the city of Athens, including Pericles himself. It was a huge, huge, huge hit to the Athenians. Essentially, all the leaders, soldiers killed by disease. Now, the Persians kind of get involved here as well. Remember, the Persians before got beat up by the Athenians. They're like, well, we'll get some revenge when we can get it. And so one thing Sparta is missing is a navy. Well, the Persians actually helped Sparta put together a navy. Spartans then crush the Athenians, break up their empire, and basically everything comes down to the end. Here's the result, though, guys. Think about this, you guys. Winners and losers are both weakened. Both Athens, both Sparta fought a 25-year-long war that I summarized for you guys in 1.5 minutes, the basic ideas of it here. In that, when we really think about it, they're both weakened a lot. Both sides fought a long, long war. Both sides lost a lot of people, and both sides were extremely weakened. The farm area, when Sparta is surrounding Athens for that time period, those city walls, they destroy the farm. They're kind of choke off Athens, and so they destroy their farmland. Obviously, Athens can survive because they're going back and forth with their trade, but that farmland's destroyed. It's gone. The people are left jobless. People left homeless. The Spartans burned the city of Athens again and destroy this and knock the city walls down. And so both sides are extremely, extremely weakened. Eventually, Sparta forms their own empire, but they fall apart as well. And so as all these city-states grow weaker and weaker and weaker, you have a new power start in northern Greece called Macedonia. And there's a Greek historian named Thucydides, know his name, guys, who writes the whole history of the Peloponnesian War and eventually what leads to the fall of Greece. So, question is, what do you think is going to happen next? What do you think is the biggest outcome of this war where Athens and Sparta, their allies, are fighting each other? What's the big outcome going to be, and why do you think it's going to be that, guys? So, I have these notes done for Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen. Kind of a short version of this, but we'll talk about this more in detail on Wednesday. Thanks a lot, guys.